and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Now let's get started with our first story of the day. So last night, I did a live stream indicating that, well, Glenn Greenwald was right. And I read some of the article snippets from his Substack in regards towards how the New York Times is finally acknowledging that the hashtag laptop from hell, Hunter Biden's laptop, turns out that story is now true. Now, that story broke in 2020. Now, for those of you who don't remember, in 2020, the New York Post posted that story on all their social media accounts. They did an article about it, and this was at the height of the general election between Joe Biden and then President Donald Trump. And the thing is, something happened. Facebook and Twitter acted quickly to silence and suppress that article from the New York Post, an authoritative source that's been around for a very long time, a very large media outlet. And anyone that there shared that article found out that they couldn't share it at all. Facebook and Twitter were doing everything they could to make sure no one read that article. And then corporate media locked shields and formed as one unit and said, wait a minute, this is Russian disinformation. This is a lie. It's fake. Don't believe me? Here, you might notice a pattern in this first video. Faze, if we can, let's play this first video.
Biden's secret emails.
A really fishy story.
The Post claimed that the emails were found on a laptop computer that was brought to a repair shop in Delaware in the spring of 2019.
The FBI is now investigating whether those alleged Hunter Biden emails are actually connected to a larger foreign intelligence operation.
They may be related to a foreign intelligence operation.
Foreign intelligence operation.
Foreign intelligence.
Foreign intelligence.
Foreign intelligence operation.
For all we know, these emails are made up.
The information found on the laptop may be part of a Russian disinformation campaign.
Part of a Russian disinformation effort.
Described by many intelligence experts as having hallmarks,
All the hallmarks
All the hallmarks of a
Russian
disinformation.
Russian disinformation.
disinformation campaign.
This is a classic example of the right-wing media machine.
Okay. So let's pause it right there. You might have heard the same words being repeated over and over again. Russian disinformation, hallmark, trademark. Disinformation, disinformation, disinformation. Well, turns out that it's not disinformation, that the story is true. Now, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, New York Times, and all the other larger media outlets are doing everything they can to trust the authoritative sources. Now, I'm going to play a clip here from Fox News. Now, here's the thing I want to tell our audience. It's up to you to make the mature decision to figure out what is truth and what is false. We believe in your ability to look at the facts and all the information and come to your own conclusions. But the truth is this, before we play this video, but I want to keep this video up here, Faith, if we can. In 2020, Facebook and Twitter did everything they could to suppress that story from the New York Post, an authoritative outlet, an outlet that is a legacy media journalistic outlet. This wasn't some right-wing conspiracy. It turns out that there is some facts to it because, again, yesterday, the New York Times finally admitted, now that Biden's president, because Biden is president, right? YouTube. Turns out now it's true. And a whole web of lies are falling apart. And as I said on yesterday's live stream, you could tell a well-constructed lie, and it could look so good. But all lies have one thing in common. They fall apart. Now, here's a clip from Fox News. Now, when we play this video, all of you listen to the words, hear it out, come up with your own conclusions. But the point is, this is the fact that no one can argue with. The New York Post had their original article suppressed by Facebook and Twitter, and then CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, and every other liberal outlet did everything they could to bury that story. If you're in journalism, you have to look at everything from all points of view and perspectives. And I understand that people were so triggered by Trump. But let's play this video.
Generate that email James Gilliard generated that email. And in that email, James Gilliard goes through intimate detail of what each individual's requests were from a compensation perspective and how the equity in the enterprise would be divvied up. Very important. May 13th, that email was generated by somebody else to me. In that email, there's a statement where they go through the equity. Jim Biden's referenced as 10%, doesn't say Biden, it says Jim. And then it has 10% for the big guy held by H. I 1,000% sit here and know that the big guy is referencing Joe Biden. That's crystal clear to me because I lived it. I met with the former vice president in person multiple times, and I had been meeting and talking with Hunter Biden and Jim Biden and Rob Walker and James Gilliard. Where the media has tried to hide, and I personally feel it's disgusting, is between that May 13th email and the final document that was executed called Oneida Holdings, LLC. In Oneida Holdings, LLC, the equity is broken up 20% Hunter Biden, 20% Jim Biden. Well, there are LLCs that represented them.
Right.
20% James Gilliard, 20% Rob Walker, and 20% me and my investment entity. What I'd ask the American people to read and look at is how from May 13th to the final Oneida document that got executed did Jim Biden go from a 10% owner to a 20% owner? That's not my question to answer. I'm sure there were discussions within the Biden family. I wasn't privy to that discussion. But this is Jim Biden, the brother of the potential future president of the United States. It's not a distant cousin. It's not an employee. It's his brother who in documents defines himself as a political advisor to his brother. And so I'll leave that to the American people to answer that. But I don't understand how the American journalist is allowing that gap to be even talked about and defined.
It's all falling apart. Hey, vote blue no matter who. Let's be very real with each other for a minute. All of you went to bat very hard for Joe Biden. And I understand that people were so triggered by Trump. Look, he's the last guy who should be president of the United States. We can agree with that. But see, Trump is a symptom of what's wrong with the political system here in America. This neoliberal nightmare that we're living in was designed not only by those jagoffs in the GOP, but also those rat bastards in the Democratic Party. You see, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, the Clintons, the Obamas, Kennedys, the Bushes, all of them, all these sick bastards helped design the system. Biden assisted, so did Nancy, so did Chucky Boy Schumer, all of them did. Because they've been in power for so long. They created this environment of true corruption and nepotism, to where the rich are getting richer and the poor are being screwed over. And let's look at some of those business dealings that the Bidens were a part of. Some of them are also were in place with what's happening in Ukraine. This is a fact. Cannot be argued with, cannot be debated with. These politicians are corrupt. And it sickens me and it saddens me too that there are so many people just going to bat for the Democratic Party because somehow, I guess, people are being spoon-fed this propaganda and have convinced themselves that the Democrats are the good guys. George Carlin was right. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party are friends with each other. They are friends with each other. They're all corrupt. And in this day and age, we need true independent media to hold those in power accountable. And let's face it, a lot of these politicians have done criminal acts, but yet because they are rich, because they're well connected, and because they've created an environment where bribery has been made legal for these jagoff politicians, well, they can get away with it. Boy, oh boy, I wish we actually had real accountability, and sadly, the media won't do it. Let's pull up this tweet from Glenn Greenwald. When it came down to this story, he was silenced by The Intercept. He was censored by The Intercept, an outlet that he helped found. Let's read this tweet. And again, I talked about this on yesterday's live stream last night. It's been 24 hours since the New York Times acknowledged the reported emails from the Biden laptop were authentic, as was a New York Post story on how they obtained it. None of the media outlets that spread the CIA's Russia disinformation lie has admitted what they did or retracted. Here, let's pull up some of these pictures. I don't know if we could zoom in on them, but there's the Politico, Huffington Post, so many others. There's The Intercept too. All one sick game. One sick game that we're part of, and these politicians can get away with it. Now look, a further investigation is needed into this story. Real accountability is needed. We need real journalists out there. Glenn Greenwald, let's face it, this might upset some of the TYT people, but Glenn Greenwald is an award-winning journalist, and turns out, hey, he was right about another story again. Boy, isn't it interesting when it comes down to politics and Team Red and Team Blue, how people quickly just say, oh, I don't like what you're saying about my favorite politician. Now, look, before we play this next video, I want to be very clear here. We've got a lot of criticism from a lot of people saying, well, how come you're so tough on the Democratic Party? The GOP is low-hanging fruit. Matter of fact, it's not even low-hanging fruit. It's rotten fruit on the ground. I know what to expect from Republican lawmakers. They are never going to fight for Medicare for all. They will never fight for legalization of cannabis. They won't fight for any progressive policy. The Republican Party is inherently corrupt. They're a bunch of jagoffs. But at least when they give me the middle finger, they're being authentic. Because I know they will never, ever fight for any of those issues at all. And what a surprise it would be if they actually did. But they're not. Because they're just as corrupt as the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party puts on this fancy mask of neoliberalism. And they have a smile on their face saying, yes, we care about these issues. But when push comes to shove, what happened in 2021? Nothing happened for the working class citizens. You still got people being evicted from their homes. You still have people struggling with student debt, medical debt, and now inflation's rising up. You think the Democrats are going to give the American people a bailout? Look, they got money for war. They're going to give a lot of money to the military in Ukraine for this ridiculous bullshit war that's happening there. They're not going to help you. You understand? So if you're a diehard Republican voter or diehard Democratic voter, no matter how this midterm plays out, if you're going to vote for Team Red or Team Blue, congratulations, you're a very good puppet. But know this puppet, and I say this, not being mean, but if you're a Democratic voter or Republican voter, know this. You will never have a seat at the table because these politicians, not only they don't like you, they don't really think about you. And they say words that give you comfort. And if those words give you comfort, fine. But one day you're going to wake up and find yourself surrounded by a greater nightmare. And speaking of nightmares, I'm going to time travel way back in 2020 when we had two old men fighting over a bowl of soup, cold bowl of soup called the United States. And here where, again, this laptop is brought up. Notice again, how when this story was being brought up, how the media was quick to silence it. Let's bring up this debate between these two senile old bats.
Respond, and then we're going to have follow-up
questions. If this stuff is true
questions.
about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
All right.
So don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody.
President Trump, I want to stay on the issue of race. We're talking about the issue.
Laptop from hell.
President Trump, we're talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
and I have to respond to that.
Please,
because look,
very quickly.
there are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
That's exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This is where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Yes.
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go
President,
again with Russia.
We're going to continue on the issue of race. Mr. President.
All right. Now, I played that video, one, because it's sad state of affairs of what we had to choose from in 2020, but also, again, hey, vote blue no matter who in corporate media. Now that the New York Times, this authoritative source, and hey, YouTube and big tech, all of you guys, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, now that the New York Times, that authoritative source, admitted now that that laptop story is true. In what world do you guys think that Trump, if he chooses to run again in 2024, that he's not going to use this against you? I mean, honestly, Democrats, corporate media, liberals, vote blue no matter who, blue check marks, all those people suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. You're very good at giving political ammunition to your rivals. Now, look, the GOP, they're just a bunch of jagoffs, just like the Democratic Party. But honestly, it's going to be hilarious to see how the 2024 election will play out. And 2022 will be the canary in the coal mine. But the Democrats are, again, perfect examples, as well as the entire support base that they have, are perfect examples of people who just know how to shoot themselves right in the foot. Like how I did that? That's for the vote blue no matter who crowd. Because this is going to come back to haunt you. Now, let's play this video of the press secretary of the White House when she is questioned about the laptop from hell. Let's play it.
And if I may, you asked about Hunter Biden's laptop. You also, in October 2020, dismissed it as Russian disinformation. Do you stand by that assessment?
Again, I'd point you to the Department of Justice and Hunter Biden's representatives. I'm a spokesperson for the United States. He doesn't work for the United States. Go ahead. Go ahead. And, okay, we'll do the last one here.
Thank you, Dan. I have two questions.
Okay, let's pause it there. They really don't know what to say because the thing is, the laptop is all true. And this really calls into question the future, well, not the future, but real reality of journalism in this country. What it means in regards for a real free press. Because the same people who, again, control our media also own our politicians. I want to pull up this article from the New York Post. Hopefully it doesn't get censored, but it might be. Who knows? GOP fury at big tech. Dems after New York Times admits Hunter Biden laptop is real. Outrage Republicans, and look, let's be very clear about the Democratic and Republican parties. They're both the same. They're all friends with each other, but they're playing this game back and forth. And again, 2022 will be the canary in the coal mine of how 2024 will play out. Outrage Republicans have accused big tech, Democrats, and the liberal media of colluding to censor reports on Hunter Biden's infamous laptop after the New York Times finally admitted the device was real. So it's all real. It wasn't Russian disinformation. What great work, CNN and MSNBC. Keep on hitting them home run homers. The New York Times admits that we've known for years the Hunter Biden laptop story was true. Big tech censorship of this story was a disgrace. Senator Tom Cotton tweeted earlier today, or earlier on Thursday morning. For decades, the Biden family has cashed in on Joe's government service. Cotton added in a subsequent tweet, even today, Hunter Biden's getting paid millions for his artwork in a corrupt arrangement blessed by the White House. Oh, God almighty. So, continue on. The GOP backlash was in response to a Gray Lady report earlier this week that blatantly verified a trove of emails contained on the laptop's hard drive 17 months after the Post first started reporting on it. President Biden and his administration had previously dismissed the Post's exclusive report on the laptop, which Hunter ditched at a Delaware repair shop in 2019 as Russian misinformation. And when we see that image there, it's okay. Let's pull it up. When you see an image like that, there's a lot of it, and it gets worse. Hunter Biden needs help, but it's quite clear, it's not easy. Continuing on. Senator Rick Scott from Florida fumed that the cover-up helped President Biden secure a victory in the 2020 election. The New York Times confirmed what many of us already knew. Democrats and their allies in media and big tech conspired to cover up the Hunter Biden story to help Joe Biden in the presidency. Representative Darrell Issa, a Republican from California, called for a congressional probe in the wake of the Times report. Tonight, I'm calling for a congressional investigation into how big tech, mainstream media, and the Democratic industrial complex colluded to suppress Hunter Biden's scandals and during the last days of the 2020 election. So, obviously, it's more of GOP lawmakers demanding investigation and accountability. Will anything come of it? Maybe yes, maybe no. This is our system that we live in. And sadly, the reason why this neoliberal, neoconservative nightmare that we have keeps on giving us the same BS, no matter who's in the White House, be it a Democrat or Republican, no matter who controls the Senate or House, be it a Democrat or Republican, nothing will fundamentally change because all these politicians are going to get rich. Earlier this week, I covered on how just before the invasion in Ukraine, there are politicians who are getting rich off of it. And you could check out that live stream. You could check out that show notes in the description box below, and how there are many people now realizing that no matter what party you're with, be it a Democrat or Republican, they're going to get rich on the side. They're going to make sure that their family members are going to get rich. There's nothing different about Biden. He's not this good person that's going to return the soul back to this country. He's inherently corrupt. He said he'd probably prostitute himself to corporations. This is a man who's been on the wrong side of history. He was against busing and desegregation. He verbally berated and yelled at and humiliated Anita Hill. This is the same guy who voted for the war in Iraq. This is the same guy in 2005 who helped make student debt the nightmare that it is right now. This is the same man who's never apologized for being the main architect for the crime bill. But vote blue no matter who people were saying he's going to return the soul back to the country. He's going to fight against Trump and everything's going to be great. But oh wait, Biden is still implementing a lot of Trump's border policies as well as a few other domestic policies. And now there's mass inflation and the risk of World War III because the Biden-Harris administration, let's be very clear here, dropped the ball in diplomacy when it came down to this conflict in Ukraine. And what is corporate media doing? Nothing. No real accountability. And this isn't the first time they ever screwed up. Hey, audience, let's have democracy in the chat. Let's actually have some democracy in the chat. Type 1 in the chat if you believe that now corporate media has learned its lesson and they're going to be straight and narrow, on the point, all the time, get the facts right before they publish a story or even side with any of the two parties. Type 2 if you know that nothing will fundamentally change with corporate media, and they need to be demolished. Oh, one other thing too. Let's actually play the gavel one more time. Can we get the gavel one more time? Bonus extra credit. A little extra credit homework assignment. Type in the comment section below of any other stories that corporate media screwed up on. Come on, folks. We know them. Of course, there's Russiagate, and of course, WMDs in Iraq, but you know that there's plenty of others. Until then, folks, I want to pull up this little tweet here, because while it's not related to the main story at hand, it's kind of, sort of is, because let's face it, corporate media likes to screw things up. Remember, as I said, in 2020, everyone was saying, from Facebook to Twitter, as well as all of corporate media was saying that that article that the New York Post published was fake news. And now they're switching their tune. Here's another little thing. Shout out again to Glenn Greenwald. New York Times, 2015. The Azov Battalion is openly neo-Nazi. New York Times yesterday. Azov Battalion is far right. All you have to do to lose your status as a Nazi is fight on the side of the United States. There we go. There's the 2015 article from the New York Times. Oh, hey! Here's its recent article. I mean, could the New York Times all of a sudden realize, oh, wait a minute, we wrote something in 2015? Maybe do you think there's anyone who does any kind of real accountability at the New York Times? Gee, I hope so, because that 2015 article, I mean, what happened now? What is going on?